All I do is adore you all of the time.
Hi everyone, what's going on? I am so excited for today for obvious reasons. It's another conversation, but more importantly, today is a milestone, conversation number 10. I didn't think I was going to be able to get here, and I think I got here a little bit quicker than originally anticipated, but either way, I'm very excited. I can't thank you enough for subscribing, for listening, for watching, for sharing, and all the positivity that you guys give me in return. It's definitely reciprocated, and I thank you. So without further ado, my guest today is Jane. Jane is coming from the distant land of Canada, and she gets the milestone number 10. So I'm super excited. I had a stock trader actually for conversation number 1, if anybody's dug back that far. And so it is very fitting to have one for this mini milestone of mine, very important milestone. So Jane, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, this is so exciting for obvious reasons I just said, but you are, I said a stock trader, but of course not just a stock trader. You're a full-time mom. And just browsing your social media, you're like a pilot, you're a marathon runner, a runner in general. There's so many things that you do, and I think it just speaks exactly towards what I'm trying to do here, is that you can have your own life, your life you want to have, and then be able to do all these other things as well. I know you're an author as well. That's an important one, lest we forget. And you speak to that in your book a little bit. I haven't read it yet, again, specifically, but you do all these things. You obviously, haven't traded forever, and you figured out a way to do it. You're doing it now, and like so many people on here, not only are you doing it, but you're doing it while emitting vast amount of positivity, and you're helping other people. So I really wanted you on here.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, that's, one of the best things in life is to be able to give back and help others.
Yeah.
It's not just about helping yourself, but also helping others.
No, it definitely is. And I think a lot of times it's so easy to maybe look past that, because there's on social media and on mass media, you see the news, there's all they portray as the negativity. I think regardless of where you're at, Facebook, all the news is bad. Most of it is. But I think when you just do a little bit of digging, and I'd say, I've done a little bit of digging on this channel specifically, and you find people like yourself, and you find people like the 9 previous conversations, and there's actually a lot of positivity out there, and it's not portrayed in the manner that I think it should be. So what you're doing is really cool, and how you're helping contribute to what I'm doing is even cooler right now for me. But like I said in my intro, like you obviously weren't always a day trader. So how'd you even come into that? Because like I think that's probably, everybody's story is different, but I think like coming into day trading, like that's kind of a hard thing to break into. I don't think it just happens.
Definitely. Well, for me, it was, I've always been an entrepreneur ever since I was little. Like in class, I would sell candy during my math class. I would buy it in bulk, little blow pops, and I would upcharge them. So I was making money on the bags of candy. So I was constantly trying to think outside of the box, and I've never been really a 9-to-5 person. However, I did have 2 jobs in my life that were in an office, and that was working at a bank and then subsequently working at Salomon Smith Barney, which is, Smith Barney is a brokerage house now, but it was Salomon Smith Barney. And there I got my Series 7 license to be a broker, basically, to be able to handle other people's money. But I was there during the devastation of the WorldCom incident, where people had taken money against their options for the company.
Yeah.
And they didn't exercise them when it was up high, and then the stock dropped. And they lost a lot of money because people lost their houses, they lost their people's college funds. And so I thought, at this point, I'm not interested in working with other people's money. And I went on to culinary school in Italy, which was great too.
So why'd you pick Italy for culinary?
Well, my heritage is originally from Italy, and so I wanted to go there and just learn more about my heritage. And then I spent 9 months in Florence and then 3 months in Paris. at the Cordon Bleu, where I was actually first in my class.
Holy crap.
Culinary school.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
That's a really cool. I mean, France is cool. Actually, my wife and I just took a trip to France a couple months ago, I think now it is. So we know how beautiful it is there, and I'm not super knowledgeable on the culinary arts and what's prestigious, but I'm pretty sure I've actually heard that school before. So I do know that's definitely not just a small accomplishment. It's a pretty huge accomplishment. You said first year class, like that is really awesome. But like you're like a jack of all trades. Like here you are. You obviously know a thing or two about cooking, and then flash forward to now when you're doing the day trading. But so you did a little bit of the culinary arts in Florence, and then you finished up in Paris, or do I have that? Continued.
Yeah, no, that's correct. I was in Florence, and then I continued to Paris, and then I went back to Philadelphia, and I started working in restaurants there, and I had a wholesale pastry business, and I had a partner at the time, and my partner didn't really help me out that much, so I had to shut it down.
Yeah, that
happens.
And
I went into real estate, and I also started working in airlines, and I also have my pilot's license. I got my license in '96. And I never pursued it as a career because I didn't want to take the passion out of it. I just wanted it to be something that was more of a hobby.
That's
and then once I started working for the airlines where I had free travel, it was kind of like, well, why do I need to continue flying when I can travel around the world and it's easier as a passenger? So I went ahead and I was working at the airlines, which is where I met my current husband.
Okay.
And we ended up, he's from Montreal, and I was living in Philadelphia. He was based in Philadelphia. And so I ended up giving up my real estate, and I spent my weekends traveling to Canada so that I had my days off with him up in Canada.
Yeah.
And then I would fly back to Philadelphia for work. So it was hard but adventuresome at the same time. Some days I would wake up.
Yeah, it sounds like you were constantly moving.
Oh yeah.
You're going between countries, and then I'm just like obviously listening as you're talking, and I'm like thinking as well, and I'm like, so not only does she cook amazingly, but she flies everywhere, and she knows how to fly as well, and you're traveling to different countries. I mean, you're pretty much just not stopping. So I don't know, so you're in are you in a permanent location now?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Once we had, what really brought me to day trading, I kept my job at the airlines once we got married and I immigrated to Canada.
Okay.
So that I would have a job once I crossed the border, which was great. It was wonderful for that, but it really wasn't challenging. As you can see, my mind is always going a mile a minute, and
you're doing so many things.
Yeah, not one to sit still at all. So I ended up keeping the job, got married, and we ended up ended up getting pregnant. And then I thought, okay, well, I was 6 months, no, it was June of 2014, and I was 8 months pregnant at the time. And there was a reduction in workforce at the airlines, so I got laid off.
Okay.
So then I had our daughter, and then I had to figure out, well, what am I going to do to bring income in for the family, because I was working customer service, and it was a 4-hour shift starting at 4 a.m. ending at 8 a.m.
Oh, yuck.
You
just gave me the shivers.
It was not the most optimal hours to be working.
Well, and while having a newborn too, right? You said?
Well, no, I was laid off.
Yeah.
When I had the baby.
Oh, yeah, but I'm saying you had the baby, and then now you're working this terrible shift.
But that was it. I never went back.
Yeah.
That was the drive, was having our daughter was the drive to make a change in my life, to provide for the family and our daughter. And I wanted to go back into real estate, and I passed the real estate exam, but being in Quebec, you also have to take a French exam. And I speak Spanish and Italian, but I didn't have enough time to study the French because our daughter had health issues.
Oh, okay.
Right when she was born. So for about the first 4 months, she was very intensive, on-demand care. Literally, the first 3 months, she would cry almost the entire day except for 15 minutes. It was really draining. And up here, we get a whole year off from maternity leave.
It's a little bit than south of the border down here.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so then I took the French exam, but I got maybe I think it was like a 61 or 65, and you needed a 70 to pass, which was a total blessing in disguise.
Yes. That's crazy.
Everything happens for a reason, right? There's always a catalyst that makes you go down a certain path, and our futures are our futures are created by the actions that we do today, right? So I wasn't able to pass that exam, so then I had to figure out something else. And my husband had reminded me of a great trade where I'd taken $25,000 and turned it into $250,000.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that was a long-term swing trade, total luck. It was one of those ones that was like 1 in a million.
Yeah, but I think it's like, I mean, obviously that's incredible, and I'm not hacking that at all. But I think it's important, like anybody like thinking to get into trading, if they're listening to this and they're thinking that, then it's not like you said yourself just now. It was luck. So it's not like you're going to start trading and then you're going to be able to, increase your net gains or whatever by whatever that was, hundreds or thousands of percentage even. So it's not that easy. But I mean, obviously you know exactly what you're doing right now. I think that's safe to say. But it sounds like it started with a little bit of luck. But I think that's one of the actually it's another reoccurring thing in all these conversations is there's a little bit of luck in a lot of the success, but it's definitely being able to capitalize off of that luck.
For sure. Well, I mean, the trade in itself, it was a long-term trade, so it was something that I let grow as well. It was the scenario that it was a bankruptcy, and that typically in a bankruptcy the shareholders come last, but in this scenario they received shares of the new company, which ended up growing value. So it was the luck of the bankruptcy, basically.
Yeah. Interesting.
And so he reminded me about that trade, and I was like, that for sure, I would love to do that, but I want to be more hands-on. And so I ended up doing my research online, and I came across Timothy Sykes and his penny stocking millionaire challenge, and I signed up for it. And right away, our daughter was 6 months old, and in the first 3 to 4 months, I'd blown through a $6,000 account because I didn't follow the rules. I was trying to take care of a newborn. I was trying to do it all at once, and I didn't follow the rules, which of course there are rules for reasons.
Yes, very true.
And so once she went into daycare, I really took the time to study the market and continue to study and find a pattern myself that worked for me. Because I think the most important thing is everybody has a different risk tolerance. Everyone has a different time frame that they can be in front of the market or can watch the market. And so they have to really find their own fingerprint strategy.
No, you're exactly right. It definitely, everything's different. Like we talk about fitness a lot on here, and now day trading, and what works for you is not going to work for somebody else. And it's a reoccurring point in these conversations for a reason. Like it worked for you, but you said you studied the patterns that worked for you and everything else that goes along with day trading as well. And it might not work for somebody else. So that's another important, there's a little bit of luck, but a lot of preparation as well.
Well, that's it. All hard work will end up usually with success. It's taking that initial step to put in the time and effort to make it happen. And keeping a positive mental attitude as well, being like, I can accomplish this goal if I put in the work and I concentrate hard enough. Yeah,
no, you're definitely right about that.
Which really, all of that stems from when I ran my first marathon, because it was the mental struggles of training for a marathon and being like, wow, this is a big, huge feat. I'm going to run 26.2 miles. And then once you do it once, you're like, I can do anything. All I have to do is put my mind to it. That's it.
I know exactly what you're saying. And there's a couple good points that you just said. I think the first one you said is when you put your mind to something and you make up your mind that you want to do it. Of course, that goes along with the marathon. But I think a lot of times, and I'm not saying multitasking is bad, but you did say yourself, like you blew through that $6,000. You were trying to take care of your daughter, and you really were just kind of, it sounds like maybe winging it. But once you actually started studying and like took it seriously and were like, all right, I'm going to figure out what's going on here. And then you said, you focused in on this. Did you really start to become successful and figure out and develop what works for you? And then as well, the other good point is the marathon. Like, you don't think you can do something, you train your butt off to do it, and then you do it, and then you're like, holy crap, that's super obtainable. Let's do it again, or whatever hurdle. And I think maybe the marathon and the day trading can be a metaphor for anything else that comes up in anybody else's life. Like maybe like a really high goal that somebody sets for themselves, they don't ever think it's obtainable, and they think they're maybe going to be stuck down here running, in the metaphor, the 5K, and never be able to run the marathon. But, you train for it. And I think an important part is you sign up for it. So you make it real, like, oh man, I can't cower from this now. And then you just go do it. You train for it. You figure out what you got to do. You go do it, and you get through it somehow. You push yourself, and you find out a lot about yourself along the training, and then the actual marathon, and then when you're done. And then it feels that much better. Like, it feels amazing.
Everything, like, life is an entire journey, right? And if you set a goal, you can't necessarily expect to have that goal overnight. It's got to be baby steps and actions that you take every single day to get there. Just like anybody that wants to lose weight, it's going to be diet and exercise. After having our second daughter, she had the same allergies that our first daughter had. So I had to cut out all dairy and all soy, anything from the cow. And in about 3.5 months, I lost 35 pounds. It just proved to me that diet is 85% of it. Exercise?
Easily.
Okay, great.
Easily. And it took me on my entire life. I don't think until I'm 30 now, and I think it took me until my 30th year to realize how important diet was. I mean, people always say it and preach it, and I'm like, whatever. And I was pretty adamant about always working out, at least in my 20s. Then I had some medical stuff that I've talked about way back in my channel, probably like 7 months ago. But anyways, like, I wasn't able to work out for a couple months. So because of that, I focused really, really closely on my diet, and I saw that maybe of course my muscles were atrophying a little bit, but I wasn't, gaining that little gut or that chub wherever I didn't want it. And I was actually staying really slim. And not only was I looked good physically, like I wasn't bulging out in the wrong areas, but I felt better mentally, and I felt like more aware and more awake. And that really hit home. So then, like, when I overcame what I was going through, and then like I combined them, like across the streams, and I was like, holy crap, this is pretty cool. So 85% I say is like, it's at least 85%. It's huge. And obviously working out is important too. It really is. You want to keep, always in motion, just like you're saying in your life, like you're constantly, staying in motion through everything you're doing. Like, mentally, that's good, always challenging yourself, setting goals, following through with them. But physically, like literally keeping your body staying in motion helps that longevity.
Oh, I agree. And I think a lot of times too, for people that retire, that's many times what will happen is that they stop going to work, they stop that activity, and then they stop challenging their brain as well. And a lot of times you'll see that decline in people because they're not as out there in the workforce or with their friends or communicating with people. And so it really makes a difference. In fact, our second daughter, we'll come back to the book. Our second daughter was born in February. So I'm in Canada, right? So February is the middle of winter. And the way that I really kept myself from having any sort of baby blues was that's when I busted down, and with the help of my husband, we edited the book and we got it out to being published in 12 weeks.
This is February?
Yeah.
Wow.
A year ago. She'll be a year and a half this August. So
Holy crap.
Was last February.
You said 12 weeks.
Sorry?
You said 12 weeks though?
Yeah, it took us. Well, I started doing the interviews similar to like what you're doing, but then I transcribed them into a book. Yeah. And I started, I'd say, February of, we're 2018. 2016, May of 2016, and I was done by September. And then I thought, oh, sure, I can transcribe it, right? Because in my head, I'm like, I can do it, no problem. Then I started doing it, and I was like, yeah, this is going to take me forever. But you started, and that's like a huge part. Like, I've said it probably every conversation. Like, if I would have waited until I was ready. I mean, you always hear that if you wait till you're ready, you'll never do it. But like,
the important part is you started your book, and maybe you thought like, all right, maybe I thought this is going to be easier than it is right now, but you start it, and then like, if it's harder than you think it is, then so be it. You just, like you said way earlier, you just do it one thing at a time. Like, you figure out what you have to do, and you have those short-term goals, long-term goals, all the goals in between, and you just do it one other thing at a time. You knock it out, you know?
Exactly. And that's exactly what I did. And yeah, it was uncharted territory, and we made it happen. And my husband's like, yeah, Jane says she's going to do this. And he was shocked when it actually happened. He's like, wow, you actually wrote a book. Like, yeah.
Yeah. What did you think? What did you expect? Of course I
did. So that was released last June, and I actually won Eastern Regional Canada winner, and also an honorable mention as well. So
congrats, that is incredible. Oh man, see, you just started it, you did it. I mean, you kind of in over your head initially, you felt like, at least, and then here you are and you win these awards. I mean, that, like, what better example do you need? Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, so cool. That's it. You know, anytime people feel overwhelmed, I don't know if you watch any sort of Tony Robbins or anything like that.
I do, yeah.
I tend to, every morning I shoot out my watch list email to my subscribers, and every morning while I'm doing that, I listen to Tony Robbins or Les Brown or Jim Rohn or anything like that.
Yeah.
And as Tony Robbins always says, it's just a state of mind, right? So anything, if you're feeling stressed or you're feeling anxious or whatever it is, it's a state of mind. So you change your state of mind, and it also goes to a cellular level. So if you are feeling anxious or angry, every cell in your body is feeling that. So if you're feeling happy, that transcribes to every cell in your body being happy. And many times you'll see when people get really sick or people have cancer, they've had a lot of stress in their life and they haven't taken care of their body.
Yeah.
And they've bottled it all up inside. And it ends up that's killing them from the inside out.
Yeah, I do think that's really important. And I think it definitely rings true, because I've heard of, and I don't know if there's any truth to what I'm about to say, but you hear of people thinking that maybe something's wrong with them medically, and then they really don't have anything wrong with them medically. But I mean, I have heard stories, and like I said, I don't know if they're true or not, but because they're thinking it so adamantly that they almost like wish it into fruition, or not wish it obviously, but it comes to fruition because they're concentrated on it so much. And I think there's quite a bit that speaks towards that. And I mean, you also just said it yourself.
Yeah, well, the mind is a very, very powerful.
So powerful, yeah.
And so anything that you can set your mind and your mindset to, you can accomplish. So if somebody's believing that they're sick, it's no surprise that they can make themselves feel that and almost create the symptoms.
Yeah, so much of it is in your head, and I've been able to get through a lot of things physically in my life, but there's no way that if I was in the wrong frame of mind, my body would have been able to get through them. And because I've been able to train myself to think a certain way when I face that physical adversity, only am I able to get through it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that's something else that I'm going through now with setting up the Modern Trader Summit that's coming up June 23rd. That it was a bigger challenge. I was like, yeah, sure, I got this, no problem. Just like the book. And then I was like, oh my goodness, there's all these details that I didn't anticipate. Like the audio visual that I thought,
so what's this project though? I haven't seen this project on any of your pages.
Oh, I'm surprised. I post about it all the time.
I know. I've been busy too. So no, I'm just kidding. No, like I specifically I check your stuff, but because I had in my mind, a few conversations ago, that I wanted to have you on the show. So I mean, I follow, but I stopped actually paying attention because I wanted to for obvious reasons.
No, but actually that's good, because that means that I just need to plaster it out there even more to get people knowing about it, because I think that's part of it. I don't want to over inundate people with information, but it's important for people to know about it at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I created this, just like everything that I've done with Twitter and the blog and YouTube and the book, it's all come from the aspect of wanting to help others.
Yes.
And that's what Modern Trader Summit is about. It's traders that are all like-minded, that are positive, that really want to help see other people succeed.
Yeah. And where's that at?
It's going to be in Orlando, and it's also streaming online.
Too cool. So I guess, at the end. When is it?
It's June 23rd. Well, it's going to be online, streaming live, and then on demand later. But if you buy it before the 23rd, it's about 50% off.
Okay, I might be able to do that. I might be able to swing it. So you're going to be coming down south. That is awesome. And you'll probably be a little bit warmer than in Canada. I don't know. How's the weather in Canada this time of year?
It's a bit cold today.
Still cold? It's June. It's June. It's supposed to be warm in June. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, normally it is warm, but this spring we've had an unseasonably cool spring.
Oh, man. Well, no worries. A couple more weeks and you'll be down in Florida and all humid and tons of bugs and all that good stuff down there. So, So you're doing the summit.
So much fun with the girls, too, to go and play in the pool.
You bringing the whole family down there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. They're going to love it. Have they been down to Florida before?
Our oldest has, but our youngest wasn't born then.
And you said your oldest is 3, right?
Yeah, she'll be 4 this summer. Yeah.
Or she'll be 4 in the summer, and then you have the 1.5-year-old almost. And so you're definitely a full-time mom. So let's go through the list. So you have 2 kids, young kids. I think it's safe to say you're a full-time trader, full-time mom. You fly. You have the ability to fly. You are, I'd say, a professional chef at this point, easily. Also easy to say. And you're an author of that book, which I think is pretty cool. And it's given me a great idea that maybe one day down the road, I can turn some of these information and be able to share these stories as well in a different manner, in a book manner, as you've done yourself. And I've probably missed a few. Oh, you're an avid runner as well. So, and I'm sure other plethora of things that we're probably not even going to tap into. But I think a sweet takeaway here is that you just do so much, and you do a lot of things that are good for your mind and body because they're so connected.
Definitely, and that also comes to yoga as well. I went through power yoga instructor training. And that's a lot of it. It's mind-body connection.
Yes.
So, the breath is so important too with yoga or any sort of stress. Like if you're stressed out in traffic, just stop and breathe. Turn on some music and enjoy
there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah.
Make it a positive experience instead of a stressful one.
Yeah. Traffic is really... I'm pretty sure there's not a single person in this world that goes through traffic and is happy. But one thing that's helped me get through traffic, and first of all, like you said, and we just kind of said mutually, is like there's nothing you can do about traffic. And again, that can be used as a metaphor for other things in your life that you can't control, right? If you honestly and ultimately can't control it, then do you really need to stress about it? I mean, it's going to cause you some stress, but take a little, solace in the fact that you can't change the outcome, and you obviously can't change traffic. You can honk and you can swear and you can do everything you want, but you're not going to change it. However, like you just said, there's positive things you can do. Like one thing that I've been huge into probably for like the last 5 or 6 years of my life are podcasts. Podcasts are amazing for the car, for long road trips, and for being stuck in traffic for multiple hours, or so I know that's what's really gotten me through for those times, at least.
Yeah, definitely. And that's it. That's a big thing with anything. Like you said, It's a good metaphor that if it's out of your control, you can't really stress about it. Yeah. But if there's something that you can change and you want it to change, then take action to make it change.
For sure. And if you can change it, so if you are stressing about it and you can change it, then change it. Don't just sit there and stress about it and worry about it and maybe complain about it if you have the ability to change it, because you certainly cannot complain or rightfully, in my opinion, stress about something if you have that ability, and then you also are just like sitting back and maybe you're too lazy or for whatever reason you're not doing anything about it. So you definitely have to like grab that stress by the reins and make it your own and change something there for yourself.
Yeah, and any time that there's a fear, many times the fear is bigger in your head than actually tackling it. Like tackling a book or setting up this seminar.
It's funny how your brain does that. I mean, we're having definitely a full or all-encompassing conversation in the sense of we are talking about the mind, body, and spirit. So it is funny how your mind can blow those things completely out of proportion. I know that probably happens more times than not in my life, and it's really funny how your mind can do that, because of course, like you were talking about, all things mind, body, and spirit, they're definitely all connected, and there's a lot of instances, like I've mentioned before, I'm in a transitional phase right now in my life between jobs, and I was freaking out about transitioning out of the one I'm doing right now, and I was making up all these scenarios, like really bad scenarios in my head, and I guess maybe that's double-edged. Like, it usually turns out, like you said, not to be as bad, but at the same time, maybe you can harness that fear, and because you're a little scared of what that failure can entail, that you work that much harder. And you said that, I think you made a similar point earlier when we started, about you were doing something, and because it wasn't going to work, or you were worried about it failing, that you in turn, it was the real estate, you didn't have a chance. It was like a blessing in disguise, because
exactly.
So things are either blessing in disguises, and they work out for the better, and at the time you're probably freaking out that you weren't able to do it, and you fell, like you said, about 5 points short, or I think 5 to 7 points short. You didn't get it, probably really upset, but you made it through. And you had a lot of fear of, like, well, I'm moving to a different country, I have a family, what am I going to do? But because of that fear, you didn't stop at just because you didn't, like, throw in the towel because you failed it, or because you didn't pass the test by like a few points. You just kept on digging, kept on searching for something else. Super good point.
Well, that's it. In order to achieve something, you can't just sit back and wait for it to be handed to you on a silver platter. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it is definitely not just going to, exactly. You can't just sit back and get comfy on your couch, kick your feet up, and watch your TV every night and expect great things to happen. I mean, sure, maybe if you want to work that 9-to-5 job, you can come home and you can just watch your soap operas every night and just hang out, but there ain't no millionaires watching soap operas every night, I'll tell you that. Because that time that you have, I don't think there's anything wrong with coming home and maybe, like, decompressing for a few moments. I don't think you have to go 100 miles per hour 100% of the time. That might be ludicrous, and I'm sure there's some people that can do that. However, again, that's not for everybody. But come home, decompress, and then if you have other goals in life that aren't like your day job, if you will, or whatever your main priority is, then spend that time at home. Like most people, they get home between 4 or 6 p.m. wherever you're at, for most day jobs, right? And come home, you still have hours. You could easily commit an hour. And I understand there's mothers out there, there's fathers out there, there's single moms, single dads, whatever other hurdles we have when we come home to our lives. Like, it's not like you just come home and you have like 3 or 4 free hours, but I think maybe you sacrifice an hour of sleep, a couple nights a week, not even every night a week, but you sacrifice a couple hours to sleep, and like say you want to study for your real estate again, like you come home and you study 3 nights a week, and that's how you get your study time in. Or if you want to go to the gym, you wake up an hour earlier, things of that nature. But I think ultimately, if you have a goal and you want to better yourself, and in your case, you not only did you want to better yourself, which you did, but you wanted to be able to provide for your family as well. So you found a way to make it happen.
That's it. And everybody's given the same 24 hours in a day. It's how you use them.
Yeah.
So if you have the choice to sit back and just chill through life, that's probably how your life is going to end up.
Yeah, for sure.
You are someone that's more proactive. I mean, do you think like Bill Gates and what's his name, Bezos from Amazon sit back and chill every single day of their life? No, there are people that take action.
No, they most definitely don't sit back and chill, and they also most definitely take action. And those guys are definitely on some serious other things, and those are great people to look up to as mentors, and as people to strive to want to be to, and take a lot of the positive attributes there. But I think if somebody maybe is just like starting out, they don't have to be like, oh my god, I need to go 1,000,000 miles per hour like them. But like we've said already a couple times today, is like just start, and then try to take a little bit, from each of those people that you look up to and strive to be, and try to work on that, and just do a little bit better than yesterday. And I think ultimately, like you said, you didn't just wind up where you're at right now. Nobody just winds up where they're at right now. When it comes to success or doing what they want to do for a living, it takes time, and you just got to keep on working, and you got to be positive about it. Like you were talking about, negativity kind of spreading out all through your body. If you continue to be negative, you not only going to be negative in your body and feel negative a lot more, but I think you're going to attract more negativity around you. And then on the inverse, if you're positive, not only will you feel better, but I think you'll bring more positivity into your life.
That's it. And also it's really important because it's like interest in a bank. Any action that you start doing today and you improve on tomorrow, it's all going to grow towards that end goal.
That's a really good point. Exactly. That compound interest deal that we love talking about. Everybody, obviously traders and investors and just in life in general. You do a little bit today, you do a little bit tomorrow, then that's double what you had 2 days before tomorrow, right? So it definitely adds on, and that's a huge part. Literally anything you're doing, physically, mentally, just keep on doing a little bit.
Yep. Just tackle it day by day.
Yeah. And it's
crazy.
Tough.
Running a marathon, it seems like such an unfathomable task in the beginning, but if you break it down to a training schedule and you just follow the schedule and you just go along with it.
And I think scheduling is important too, but again, that's like maybe that worked for you, but I think when you're doing something like that, maybe it's a little bit better to create some sort of schedule to go to, or some kind of regimen, at least so you can pace yourself. And especially if you're doing something physically challenging like that, you don't want to injure yourself, get shin splints or whatever kind of injury you may obtain there. You want to be able to pace yourself and train yourself up to that. Because maybe you'd be able to complete a marathon if you didn't train, maybe, but you'd probably not feel too great after that, and you may really hurt yourself. And that goes for a lot of the investing as well. I think you can't just go like, all right, here's my life savings. I've never traded before, but I'm going to go all in. So I kind of do want to circle back around now that I'm talking about money again. But so for people that maybe are traders and they kind of know a little bit about what that is, what kind of trading do you do? Or do you do multiple kind of tradings? What's your favorite? What do you do more than the others?
Mostly, I really like to look for the gappers in the morning, either up or down. And, many times I'm looking more for like a squeeze scenario for ones that are breaking out and it's hitting new highs for the year or highs for the overall lifetime. And then for many times you'll see that with earnings as well. You'll see that a lot of shorts are going to get squeezed. And then with the shorting for the day, sometimes you'll see that there's been an overreaction for earnings as well, that the guidance for the rest of the year has been really negative, and so it's dropped down. And many times you'll see with the fear factor, like we've said, that fear in trading will cause a stock to drop pretty much 3 times faster than it would for going up, unless it's a short squeeze. And a lot of times a short squeeze on a low float, which will skyrocket stocks, which just happened the other day for MDGL, Madrigal Pharmaceuticals, where it ran up 100 points. One day.
This pharmas, I'm in a couple pharmas right now, and it's a painful ride. I'm long on them, but it's been like, it's so crazy, and it can be such an emotional game too. And it depends. It sounds like you're just playing like the morning gappers, you said. And for anybody that's maybe like, what in the world they're talking about right now, of course. And you're playing the American stock markets then, I'm assuming?
Yeah, but one thing that also gets me is when people say playing with trading, because it's not playing, right? You're trading. And it's a psychological thing, right? Because if you think that you're playing, then it seems like it's not real, right? But to get back to the gappers, what I mean with the gapping stocks is basically stocks that have had a big movement overnight. So say the stock closed at $100 and it's now at $105 in the morning, that's a 5% gap up.
Yes.
Or vice versa, if it opened at 95, it'd be a 5% gap down.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So like, again, for anybody listening, like, so the markets will open up at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and there's a little bit of pre-market movement. Stocks do trade. Certain people, I guess, again, please correct me if I'm wrong, but they have, certain people or entities have certain rights to trade. Like, not just anybody can trade pre-market, correct?
Well, it depends on your broker.
Interesting. Okay.
Actually, there's pre-market hours that it can start as early as 4 a.m.
Okay.
And then 8 a.m. for other brokers, and then 9:30 for some. So it depends on the broker themselves. Majority of trading does happen between 9:30 and 4, and then the after hours market is from 4 until 8.
Yeah.
So the markets are actually open from 4 a.m. until 8 p.m., but not everybody can trade then.
Yeah.
And the market makers only work, the market makers are the people that actually make the market, right? So they go in, if the stock is stagnant, they will fill the orders of the buy and sells with the bid and the ask.
Interesting.
And
okay.
The market makers work from 9:30 to 4. And many times you'll see that the lunch hour break between, say, 12 to 1 or 12 to 2, it's not as busy because there's just not as many people trading in the market at that time, because many people are away from their desk, just logically.
Yeah.
And I concentrate primarily from 9:30 until about 11, because that's the time at which I see the volume is there, the volatility is there, and that's when the moves are happening.
Yeah, I agree.
So what I'm looking for, and if there's somebody looking to intraday trade, then you're going to look for volume, which is going to be an indication that there's something going on, and price action, right? Because you want to have that volatility to be able to capitalize, whether it's long or short. You want to be able to capitalize on that. And you can do it trading options, CFDs, stocks.
Exactly.
I don't trade futures, but the futures market is open from 6 p.m. until 5 p.m.
Okay.
So that's open 23 hours a day. And it starts on Sundays at 6 p.m. So you can actually trade that a little bit more if you got into futures, but not many people jump into futures first. It's usually stocks and then futures.
I know, and I never got out of going long on a stock, if you will, like trading bullishly. I guess I'm trying not to throw around too many things for people that aren't familiar, but if you're trading, like you said, for a stock that's going up, for an easy term, I guess, a stock that's gaining value, you're trading it bullishly, and the inverse would be bearishly, of course. So you're trading either. But I only traded, bullish stocks. I never shorted a stock. I never did options. I never did futures. I was definitely a rookie, and and like I said, I'm not trading. I did day trading for a few months, had fun, but I think that's what my downfall was. It's kind of like, I was saying, playing the market, but I was, it's money, and it's real money, and it's your money, so it needs to be taken seriously. That's something important to take away. And like I said, I'm not afraid to admit I was having a lot of fun, but then I was having too much fun with it, and I stopped, and I ended up luckily breaking even, but certain things changed in my life, and I'm not doing that anymore actively. But so the stocks are having movement overnight, again, for anybody listening, and market opens in the morning, and there's a lot more volume and price action, and so there's a lot more hands, or stocks being traded hands, I guess, if you will. I'm trying to break it down as easy as I can. And so when there's a lot of volume, then it's easy to be able to sell or buy all the shares that you want to, because there always needs to be a buyer, there always needs to be a seller. And so you're able to buy it at the exact price you want, more than likely, if you're trading a high volume stock, and you're going to be able to get rid of them quickly or buy all of them quickly.
Yeah, that's what's important for intraday trading, is to be able to get in and out quickly.
Yes.
And another way is it's supply and demand too, right?
Yep.
So if there's a lot of people that want a stock, but there's a limited amount of it, like we like to say too, say you're looking for house on a specific street, and there's only one house for sale on that street, but there's 10 buyers for that one house. Well, then there's likely going to be a bidding war for that house. Mm-hmm. Same thing can happen to stocks, especially lower float stocks. And a float is say there's 10 million shares that a company has of stock to issue out for the public to trade hands, but maybe 3 million shares are held by the insiders.
Okay.
So you have 7 million shares that people can buy and sell.
Okay.
Well, that's a very low float per stock. Anything, in my opinion, less than 20 million is low float. Say that comes out, oh, they just got a patent with Apple. It was a big contract win. Well, now all of a sudden, everybody wants to get in on this big news.
Yep.
Like the stock Elfin that went up. It went from $16 to $105.
Oh, no big deal.
Yeah, in a matter of 3 days.
Unreal.
Or like the one I mentioned earlier, Madrigal, MDGL, where that one went from 171 to 275 in one day. Wow. Because it was a lower stock.
Okay.
And what had happened was, like you were saying before too, that if you want to go long, you're anticipating buying low and selling high.
Yes.
But there are people that want to make money on the opposite, the reverse. So they're shorting. So they sell the stock, which they don't own. They borrow it from the broker, and then they buy it back low, which is great as long as the stock drops. But for people that want to short, and then the stock gaps up, they're getting what's called squeezed because they're losing money as the stock is going up. So many times with a low float, which is why I like to look at the short float percentage from the day before to see how many shares have been shorted, will give you an indication of whether it's going to squeeze or not if there's the price action and volume of buying. Because then you have the people that shorted the stock and they're like, oh, I got to cover this, I got to scramble, I got to cover. And then you have these other people coming in saying, I want the stock too. So it's almost like double demand.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That's a good point.
And that's exactly what happened to Madrigal the other day. Was that stock had, I think it was 5 million in the float.
Okay.
And it was 2 million short. So it was roughly 50%. Or maybe it was 1 million short and it was 5 million. It was like 20% of the stock was short. So then all those people are thinking, oh no, I have to cover this, and I have to cover it as soon as possible.
Yep.
And so then everybody's buying, but there's not a lot of selling because they see the price action going up. And so it went up and up and up and up and up and up and up. $100.
Squeezed them, lost their shorts. Yeah. Man, it's incredible. It's an interesting profession that you have. It's I don't know. Is there anything like trading? I don't know. I'm sure there is, but
maybe being a farmer and selling crops.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, obviously, I guess that was a pretty. Now that I'm like, this is the thing about having an open-ended conversation like this. Now that I've said it, I'm like, well, that was kind of idiotic because you're just trading things. So literally any profession that you're trading things and something has value and there's supply and demand. So boom. All right, I answered my own question. It's a learning process. I'm learning. Learn from me.
That's what life's all about.
Yeah. So not being able to, or not worrying about, maybe making a fool out of yourself sometimes, and then just figuring it out. At least, hopefully, you want to learn from it. And
yeah. No. Well, life's just going with it. The less you stress about it, the more fun it is.
You really do. And I don't know. Are you able to? Well, I'm sure you're able to apply that to your job right now, but what happens when something starts? Of course, it's not all sunshine and roses. I mean, maybe you have a bad day, or sometimes does it stretch out to maybe a bad week even? I mean, are there some days where you're like, okay, maybe I've had 2 bad days, so I'm gonna, even though today's only Wednesday, I'm not gonna trade today because I need to figure something out, maybe what I'm doing wrong. Do you do anything like that?
For sure. Well, I mean, it's you can also have a losing trade, but it's a good trade in the fact that if you were in a stock and it started to go down and you were long, so say you bought the stock at $5 thinking, okay, I'm going to get in above the whole dollar, and you're thinking, oh, it's going to continue up, and you get out at $4.90, you've actually protected yourself because it ended the day at $4.20. So it was
that's a really good point, actually.
A big trade because you exited, but it was still a losing trade overall.
Yeah.
So for sure it does happen, and it's never easy to take a loss, but it's a matter of looking at it with the positive as well. So
for sure. cut your losses early.
Did you pay attention to your risk management to go ahead and limit the loss? Because that's what it's all about. If you have $10,000 and you put $10,000 in and you lose $10,000, well, you didn't have the proper risk management. Yeah. You didn't stop it before it became disastrous.
Mm-hmm. Very good point. And it's hard to do in the moment, of course, is because when you have that $5 share and you're selling it at $4.90 or whatever number you said, you're like, oh man, I just took that loss, that 10 cents loss per share, and you're pretty bummed. You took a loss, period, and then you lost, obviously however times many shares you have, again, for people that aren't too familiar. And at the time, you're kind of bummed out. But like you said, maybe that share continued dropping, and maybe it didn't close out until it hit, like $4.10 or $4, which is a much bigger loss. And then that's tough. And I think that's a learning experience. And I think that's maybe something you have to at least experience too, because when you lose your own money, you're like, all right, I got to figure out how to not do that again. So that's part of the whole process, though. And the biggest hurdle in trading is yourself and your own psychology behind it. It really is. You got to get rid of those emotions. Yeah, it's tough. I know, like I said, and by no means was I a professional, but I mean, I was pretty familiar with what I was doing, at least in the style that I was going about trading. And I know one of the rules I had set for myself was to definitely look at myself from the outside and be like, dude, you're playing this way too emotionally. Like, look at the facts and rationalize this trade, and don't get carried away, and definitely don't get too cocky, or or don't get too confident that it's going to bounce back, or whatever the scenario is. So huge mental game as well. But at the same time, even though you can control your emotions in traders, and maybe you're professional at trading that, whoever you are, definitively, you cannot control the emotions of other traders. And at least from my experience, the market a lot of times does move with the emotions of some other traders that maybe aren't as strict with their rules as a professional trader is. So maybe you, Jane, can control your emotions on a trade, but maybe that stock price will move according to, I think you had said it earlier, like a too emotional, like it's going to drop way too high, or too much, or it's going to soar way too high because people are overreacting whichever way, and that's something that I think you would probably be able to recognize and then be able to capitalize off of potentially.
That's it, capitalizing on the fear factor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think you probably said that already, but
yeah, and it's true. I try to put myself in the mind of other traders, but it's also, it's not only other traders, there's a lot of algorithms and computers that are out there trading too.
Yeah, that's a new thing that I was turned on to in the last year or so. It's pretty wild that that's out there.
Yeah, and it's not only that, but also, I don't know if you've ever seen a post or blog post or tweet or anything that I put out there about Stephanie Kammerman. She's the stock whisperer, and she's going to be speaking at the summit, and she talks about the dark pool, which the dark pool is basically where shares are hidden, but they go through. So it's the big major brokerage houses, say they're buying for a mutual fund, right? Because most 401ks and retirement plans go to 5 major brokerage houses to manage these mutual funds for people's retirement money. And mutual funds are all pretty much based on the long scenario. So you have these mutual funds, the big money houses, and they're buying, and they put their trades through on the dark pool. So say, for example, Fidelity wants to put a trade in on one of their large cap stocks. And so they're like, all right, we want to buy Amazon today. So we're going to buy 500,000 shares of Amazon because we're expecting it to break out, and it's going to be great for this portfolio. Okay. So they might buy 500,000 shares, but if they were to do that on the open market, it's going to dramatically change the price.
Yep, very much so.
So they do that in the dark pool. And as a result, there's a dark pool print. So it's like the fingerprint of their trade. Yeah. And you can see what has happened or you can see a level, whether it's going to be a support or resistance for that stock, so that you know that the big money is going in here. So if it breaks below, say, for example, $1,800. They buy at 500,000 shares. Well, if it drops down to 1,750, you're thinking, that 500,000 shares, how long are they going to wait for it before they dump?
Yeah.
And then that's going to start to affect the stock. So that's another way of looking at it as well, is you can see dark pool prints.
I'm sorry, and you may have said this when you started talking about this, but how would a trader see this?
You have to, well, there's only certain brokerages. It's in my book,
yeah.
actually.
So buy the book. Go out and buy the book if you're interested. Yeah.
And you can see it. It's on Amazon too, on Kindle. And I think it's Charles Schwab and one other brokerage that will actually give this feed out. But she also has an app where she sells it, where she will post the big dark pool prints.
Yeah.
And you can see, like, many times you'll see, like, it'll be a clear level, Facebook or USO, which is oil, or on the SPY, which is the S&P ETF. So you can see that there are these levels that can ping pong, and then the price action just goes like this between the levels. So you can somewhat trade it based on what the big money buying is doing too.
Yeah, and when you say levels, do you mean like support and resistance?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Just the price levels.
Okay. Huh. That's interesting. I have never heard about that. I'll have to get your book. Throw it on the shelf.
Which can be created by the big money dark pool prints.
Huh. That is really interesting. So happy to have this conversation. Actually, it's been an amazing conversation, but I love learning new things, and like I'm familiar at least with trading, and to hear something completely new like that is really cool. But you said if you wrote about that a little bit in your book as well.
Yeah. Stephanie was one of the traders that I interviewed, and she's been in the market for over 25 years.
Oh wow, she's got a little bit of experience. So.
Oh yeah, lots of experience. Yeah, it's the Java Pit Trading Room. It's her trading company.
So, and again, so was it just you said female traders, or did you do other professions as well? I can't remember. It was strictly.
It was female traders.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear that it was just traders and not other professions, which is still pretty cool, because I don't know. Is there a statistic out there for the male to female ratio of traders, professional traders?
Well, when I was writing my book, it was just to go based on my Twitter following, it was 85% male and 15% female. So based on that, I think there's more of a glass ceiling for women in the trading community, that they don't think they can do it, which is just a mental hurdle.
Yep,
like we've been talking about throughout this entire conversation, is that, it's just a glass ceiling stigma that they can break through. In fact, women tend to be better traders because they're less risk averse, which comes from actually having less testosterone and less, I'm going to beat the market, because because it's more factual. Even though women tend to be more emotional overall, it can be more fact-based.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. No, that's a super interesting point. And I think another good point here is that you're a mom. You're a full-time mom, you have 2 kids, you're raising a family, and you trade at home, right? So you don't need to go out there. You don't need to worry about doing that 9 to 5, or like, oh my God, how am I going to get childcare or whatever you're trying to do while raising a family. So you're not paying, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not paying for daycare because you're watching.
I am. I do. I do send them to daycare based on the fact that for social, I did a lot of research with kids before I had kids.
Okay, good point.
Reading.
Okay.
The first year of a baby's life is all about trust and security. Okay. And then after that, and that will, in essence, create their base. Okay. And then after that, it's about independence and socialization.
Okay. Interesting. So you want to get them out of the house more under a year, or like you're saying your 3-year-old, or I guess you have a 1.5-year-old now, so now you want to get them a little bit more out. So the trust is mutual though, right? For you to be able to be separate from them, but them also to be out and not be constantly with mom. Is that what I'm getting?
Correct. Well, it's that at the first year, the love and nurturing that they receive gives them the sense of security and sense of self. Yeah. And that they're not scared in life. And then after that, the socialization makes them really confident.
Yeah, that's so important.
People see our girls and they're like, do your children ever stop smiling? They're always smiling. They're always happy. And we have probably like one of the most confident 3.5-year-olds. She is fearless, climbing the jungle gym. Hey, she's making friends at the park. Like, he just goes and takes on life head on.
And that's awesome. So that's a really good point for, especially if there are any, well, I mean, I'd want anybody listening, male or female, to be able to do this if they wanted to. But if there was like a woman out there being like, oh, I think that's crazy, because I think you said a lot of good points, and one of them that I pulled out of there, they're less risk adverse, but they are more apprehensive to get into something like this. At least when I've talked to people at work about trading, that's my experience. But if your mother, and it sounds perfect. I mean, especially you, like, not that you're not working outside of the hours of 9:30 to 11 when you're actively trading. Obviously, there's a lot of things that go on behind there to be able to prepare yourself to be able to execute for that hour and a half. But, I mean, I think still, at least maybe those times you're able to be a little bit more flexible, and maybe you have to take care of your kid at a certain time, so then you're going to study later for the next trading day or whatever. So you can kind of have that ease of adjusting your schedule, because the only strict schedule that you're playing is that 9:30 to 11. So I think that's something really important for people to take away from here.
Exactly. And I mean, honestly, for me, we drop the kids off. Many times my husband will walk them over with me, and we drop them off by 8:30 in the morning. 8:15, and I'm back at home by 8:30. Mm-hmm. And that's when I do my work. I do my prep list from 8:30 to 9:15. Mm-hmm. Get then 15 minutes just to get everything squared away, set up for the trading day, and go ahead. And then I'm present for that hour and a half. And if they're sick, okay, they're sick.
Yeah.
Like, they're number one. It's family first is
for
the way that we think.
Yes.
And what we try to do is take care of our family and find a way and a means to do that. That also allows us to really enjoy life, because one thing that my husband's always like, it kills me. You go to these really rich neighborhoods and you see the driveways are empty, there's nobody home, the houses are dark. It's like people get up, they get in a car that they bought, or that maybe they're leasing it, and then they're paying a mortgage on a house that they're not spending that much time in. They're driving to work in traffic, and they're frustrated in traffic. They don't really like their job. And then they get home, and it's a couple of hours at home. And
sad.
Really, what's that life look like? And another big book that changed my life was Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Work Week.
Yeah, I've read that one.
For, finding something that you can do from anywhere. So you're not tied to a desk. You're not tied to a job per se at somebody else's desk, where you can work and live at home, or you could work and you could travel the world. Another girl that I interviewed was Travelite, Jordan Light, and she travels around the world and she trades. Yeah. And she's young.
Yeah, there's no reason why you can't do that. That's for sure.
Exactly.
There's so many opportunities.
She wanted to do it, so she made it happen, right? So it's a matter of finding it and making it happen. It doesn't, as a mom, it can be tough, but if you have that drive to make it happen, you can do it.
You can, exactly. And you said it a bunch of times, and I'm so glad you said it each and every time you did say it. If you make up your mind to do something, more than likely you're going to be able to make it happen. It's just a matter of how much dedication and hard work you're going to be able to put into it to be consistently, or just to be consistent to go after that goal that you've set for yourself.
And I get a lot of hate online too, because people are like, oh, you call yourself a guru. And that's something, I don't call myself a guru. I share my experience, and in trying to encourage and empower others to get into it, to take that step and move forward, which is also why my book is #FMJ, which is forget my job is the political, or fuck my job,
This isn't a PC show, so you're good.
Yeah, it's like, I want to make a change in my life. But you have to trust yourself that you can do it. You transition into it, and then you trade, which is why it was trust, transition, trade.
Yeah, and there's always going to be haters. Oh my God, especially online. Like, I hope to, and you seem like the type of person that's just going to push that to the side. You know what you're doing. You know exactly the tracks that you're on right now, and you're going to continue chugging along regardless of that hate right there, because obviously anybody can say anything online from the comfort of their keyboard. So
Yeah, and pretty much, if somebody's hating on you, they're jealous of you. That's the way I look at it.
For sure.
No time
yeah,
for it.
you don't need any of that.
Yeah.
And you're helping. Yeah, you're so right. And you're helping so many people with all your advice and your, like I said, your positivity and everything else we've talked about. So you're doing an amazing job. And I can't wait to see it continue. And do you plan on doing maybe more books in the future, or anything like that?
As of right now, I don't think so, but that doesn't mean that it won't happen. I did open my mouth last October at a seminar that I was speaking at, saying, okay, I'm going to host one down in Florida in June. And then I said it. So to me, I did it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what,
no, that's a
how
huge deal. It's
the
a huge deal.
Moderator Summit came about. So I think for a little while, I think I might just enjoy the time with the family and everything like that,
yeah,
because it's
definitely
been so intensive that I'm ready. It's added extra workload and a little bit more stress than I was anticipating.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've tried to mitigate the stress and be like, you know what, I can't really worry about it, because pretty much all the details are taken care of and everything is just kind of come together, and that's it. That's it.
Jane, you're doing absolutely great. And it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and talking about all these things and being able to share with everybody here. And I know maybe some people may have gotten lost a little bit when we talked a little bit about stocks, but of course that's what you do. So we're going to talk about it a little bit, but there is a huge chunk in here that didn't talk about stocks. So I hope other people, or I know other people, will be able to get a lot from it. Super inspirational, absolutely perfect for the show. Thank you so much for your time. I know time is something you don't get back, and you are doing a lot of full-time things all at once here, and you're doing a real good job at it. And I don't need to tell you, but just keep on doing what you're doing, and you're going to go even farther than you go now. And I know you don't have any plans on stopping moving right now. You're kind of like, you're probably like a shark. Like, if you stop moving, I'm kind of scared to see what would happen. So I don't think you can stop moving. It's not in your blood, from at least what I can see in here. So
yeah, but it's nice to take a little break every once in a while. It's like that yoga meditation. I gotta just recenter, and then I can go full force again.
You do, yeah, exactly. And then that's a good point. You gotta be able to reset a little bit, and just realign, and then take a breath, and maybe appreciate everything you've done as well, and then get back at it.
Exactly. Thank you so much. It's been great, and also, cjandtrade.com is where everybody can find all my
please. What are all your handles?
Stuff and everything like that. And I'm Airplane Jane pretty much anywhere. If you just Google it, Airplane Jane. That's me.
It's definitely the first thing that comes up. And you've got Twitter for that. You've got YouTube channel. You've got what else?
Instagram, LinkedIn,
Facebook. You got your book out there. There's so many things, and of course I'll put it all in the summary underneath this video, so everybody will be able to see that and will be able to find you and maybe hit you up on social media if they have any more questions. And Jane, like I said, thank you so much, and I look forward to following your journey.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
All right, Jane, we'll see you later.
All right, have a great night.
See you.
I like to